favorite time of year, and in my books, we've arrived, you know, we're past Labor Day, Starbucks PSL is out, so that means it's fall, and fall is my favorite time for reading. I have been itching to get out all of my witchy books and start in on them. So today I have none other but a huge list of fall recommendations in my fall TBR to share with you guys. So I've divided everything up into categories. So we have, you know, dark academia, mystery, witchy, rom-com. This is kind of like a half TBR, half recommendation video. So some of these I have read and some of them I want to read this fall. So I'll share all of that with you. And yeah, let's just hop into it. Okay. First, let's talk about witchy rom-coms or witchy chick lit. This is probably what I've been most excited to dig into, so let's start with all of these. The Witch is Back by Sophie H. Morgan. This is a new release. This just came out in 2023. I haven't really heard much about it, but I saw it at Barnes, and I could like not pass up this book because it's so cute and it sounded so good. Besides the people, like just don't look at the people. And it's a really cute cover. So this book is about Emmeline, who is a witch, and she was born and raised in what they call witch society, which I'm still kind of like learning what all that entails. But basically she was engaged, and then her fiance just kind of like up and left her, and then he shows back up 7 years later and says like, hey, we have to get married. And so there's a marriage of convenience trope in here, which is very exciting because I love a marriage of convenience. I don't know about you guys. And there's like a whole witch society, witch like elements, but she leaves the witch society after her fiance leaves her, and she goes and she opens a bar in Chicago, and she's just like living her life, not like really doing all the witch things. And then she has to come back into it all. This is on my TBR. I highly recommend, even just for the cute cover. I mean, come on, so cute. The X-Hex by Erin Sterling. So this is a series. There's this one, and then I think it's the Kissing Curse or the Kiss Curse after that. Oh yeah, this one's very interesting. Okay, this one, she literally puts a hex on her ex, and then he comes back to town. She's like, oh, maybe I should not have done that. And I'm not positive, but I think this is a second chance romance. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, they have to work together to find a way to break the curse that she put on him, save the town, yada yada. You know the deal. So I think this sounds like small town second chance romance, which I'm always down for. And people generally have very good things to say about this, so I'm excited to see what I think. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. This one sounds so good. This is about, I think, a school of witches, and our main character, Mika Moon, I don't know about her name. Moon as a last name is that's a little on the nose, but it's okay. I'll look past it. Yeah, she goes to teach 3 young witches how to control their magic. And there is another caretaker there, Jamie, who I don't think they got off on the best foot, but it sounds like they're probably gonna fall in love. Small Town Big Magic by Hazel Beck. This one sounds really interesting. This is about, what's the main character's name? Emerson. She's an indie bookstore owner, and she lives in this small town, and she like generally like enjoys her life. I think she's part of some like community group where she's like a historian, and she ends up discovering that everyone in the town is a witch. And she was also a witch, but she didn't like pass some like test and her memories got wiped. And then there's also gonna be a childhood friends to lovers kind of segue in here storyline, and it's with a local farmer. So I love that. That sounds great. Sounds like there's a bit of like a mystery, self-discovery thing in here, as well as small town vibes. The Witches of Thistle Grove. Witches of Thistle. That's kind of hard. Witches of Thistle Grove series. So you have the first one, which is Payback's a Witch, and then the second one is From Bad to Cursed. And there are 2 others in the series. One of them just came out. So there's 4 in total. I've only read these 2 and I only own these 2. This one I read last fall, and I gave this a 5 stars, which could be like inflated because that was kind of in the beginning of me like really getting back into reading. But I remember this just being like super atmospheric. There is a sapphic like love interest storyline going on here. It's like a ex revenge kind of story too. It's these three girls that like team up together against this guy that they all dated, and he like all did them dirty. So that's really fun. And then I just read this one, From Bad to Cursed. So these are interconnected books, and this one just follows a different family members. So there's 4 like main witch families in this series, and so they kind of, all these books just kind of like go in different like family point of views, different siblings and cousins, and they're all interconnected. I want to include this book, but it doesn't really fit like neatly into a category, and I don't really have any others of its kind. So let's just talk about it and then we can move on. And that is Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell. This is a graphic novel. I've already read this season. I've already read it. This is set in a pumpkin patch, and it is like the pumpkin patch of all pumpkin patches. You can like kind of see this is like the map. And it follows 2 friends who are working their very last night at this pumpkin patch, and they kind of go on a little adventure throughout the whole pumpkin patch, and are just chatting about the end of the whole thing, you know? Now let's talk about dark academia. I am so excited because I don't think I've really ever read any dark academia, so you know, this is the time to dip my toe into it. Ninth House by Lee Bardugo. This is about Alex, whose only way she's able to go to school is to police, like a secret society. She gets like a free ticket to Yale. I think it's a free ticket at least. Yeah, it's a full ride. She gets to go to Yale on a full ride, but she has to police one of Yale's secret societies. And she kind of like discovers all of this weird stuff they're doing, like forbidden magic. It kind of alludes to sacrifices, raising the dead, kind of weird stuff, dark stuff, not good stuff. Funny by Mona Awad. This is about Samantha, who goes to an elite university, and she's in this like grad writing program, and there's this clique of girls, and they're all like rich, and they all call each other Bunny and do all of this weird stuff. And she receives an invitation to go to like some event with them, and she becomes closer friends with them. And that's kind of all I know. And the only other thing I know is that the end is like a little vague and like up to interpretation, which I hate in books. Like I want to know like what happened. I want to know what everything meant. So we'll see how I feel about that. But basically I think some weird stuff goes on. And that's really dark academia in a nutshell. Academia, weird stuff. These 2 I think I'm just gonna talk about together because I've heard they're very similar. So that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt and If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I mean, they're different, but I've just heard that they're very similar, and like the recommendation is not to read them like back to back, or you will inevitably like one more than the other and like compare them to each other. But The Secret History is about a classics professor that kind of like influences this group of college kids, and like not in a good way, and they kind of go down a dangerous path. So that's that book. This is highly acclaimed. Like people love this book. This is like that, but Shakespearean actors. It's a conservatory of Shakespearean actors, and they also go down a dangerous path. A Discovery of Witches, and this is by Deborah Harkness. This has been around for a while. Let me see when this was published, but people really like this series. 1965? Dude, I don't know. That's crazy. Okay, so we have a scholar and a descendant of witches who works in Oxford's library, and she discovers a manuscript, and I think it kind of leads her down the path of discovering that witches are real. There's also a vampire. I don't know. I really don't know much, but I know that it's supposed to be really good. Witches, vampire, Oxford Library. You don't really need to tell me much more than that. Next genre is mystery, which I know is pretty vague. I have kind of like a collection of like more like fall atmospheric mystery books, and then just kind of like general mystery that are just kind of my favorites. Because I think if you're not like fully ready to jump into fall reading, this is like a really good place to start. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. There's 3 in the series plus a prequel, but the prequel doesn't like really like follow the same storyline. I have not read that one yet, but I have read like the main series, and this is so good. This is so good. This is a 5-star book for me. Incredible. So this follows Pip, and Pip is a senior in high school, and she has to write a like senior capstone. So it's kind of a project, and I think it can be like on anything. You just have to get it approved. And she chooses to unearth this like kind of open close case that happened in her small town, and then involved the disappearance and the murder of a high schooler. And everyone thought it was this girl's boyfriend that killed her. He killed himself, and that's just kind of it. But Pip thinks there's something more to the story. So she takes this capstone project as her opportunity to kind of open back up this case and see what she can figure out. And by doing so, she does start discovering things, and there are people who don't want her to be discovering things, and so she gets herself into a bit of a pickle. The Naturals. I have also just finished the series as well. There's 4 books plus a little novella at the end. So this book follows a group of teenagers who are part of this like FBI, I don't even know the word for it. It's a classified program. They're part of this FBI program because all of these teenagers have a natural gift that makes them really keen to solving crimes. They kind of just make up this found family of misfits, and they help the FBI solve murders specifically. Okay, so for some more like fall cozy mystery vibes, I have the Evanfall Witches B&B mystery series. I think there's just 2 out, I could be wrong, but I've read the first one, which is In the Company of Witches, and this fall I really want to read the second one, When the Crow's Away. This book is literally if Gilmore Girls met practical magic, because it follows Bryn Warren, who is a witch, and she lives with her 2 aunts who are also witches, and they live together in a bed and breakfast that they run. And like then they solve murders. It's so cute. Crime and Poetry. I have not read this. I just picked this up at Barnes & Noble because the cover is so cute. Like, you have a cat in a little library bookshop. I think it's a bookshop. There's like literally magic, like little sparkles. It's great. It's so great. So this is the first in a series, the Magical Bookshop Mystery Series. This sounds really good though. This is about Violet. Yes, Violet's our main character. She goes to take care of her grandma, who she thinks she's sick. And really she just, the grandma wanted her to come back home and work in their magical bookstore. And then I think somehow she ends up solving a murder too, because that's always how these go, you know? So just sounds like a really good cozy mystery, and like, you had me at magical bookshop. Like, say no more, you had me. The Spook and the Stacks. And this is by Eva Gates. This takes place in New England, so we got those East Coast vibes. A librarian has to solve a murder, and there's a lighthouse somehow involved. I don't know. The Saturday Night Ghost Club by Craig Davidson. This looks like it's just a really short, like nice read. Like how great is the cover? This takes place in 1980s Niagara Falls, and it is like a childhood coming of age / mystery book. So it's the summer that Jake, our main character, turns 12. He befriends some kids in his town, and they make a Saturday night ghost club. I do know someone that read it, and he said to expect like a little less mystery from it and a little more coming of age, which in my book is like totally fine because I love a coming of age story. And then There Were None by Agatha Christie. Agatha Christie books just in general need to be on your fall TBR because, like, of course they do. She is the queen of mystery. So this follows a group of people that are all lured to this island by a distant friend. No one really, it's one of those things. I don't know who's luring them there, but they get lured there, they go. And then one by one, everyone starts dying. So you have to figure out, you know, who asked them to come to this island and why are they dying? Who's doing the killing? I did not see the twist of this book coming, like, whatsoever. I had absolutely no ideas. It's very good. It's very fast-paced. Agatha Christie just does whodunit murders so well. These ones are witchy books, but they're not witchy rom-coms. They're just witchy. Slewfoot. This, you have had to see this cover before because it's so iconic. Like, it's so stunning. I want to get just a little, something to prop it up on my bookcase with so I can display it because it's gorgeous. So this is about a girl in I think a small town, a village, and she makes a deal with the devil. And then a lot of antics happen. I'm not exactly sure what the tone of this book is because I think I've heard people refer to this as kind of humorous, but there are some images in the middle that really, I won't show you a creepy one, but there are some glossy pages here in the middle with a bunch of illustrations, and there are some really creepy ones in here, and I will say I have a low tolerance for these sort of things, but they're really scary. One From My Enemy by Olivia Blake. First of all, can we talk about this freaking cover? It is stunning. The dust jacket is this pearlescent white. It's gorgeous. And then you have these gorgeous illustrations within it. So pretty. So pretty. So this is a Romeo and Juliet retelling. And in this retelling, it is set in modern day Manhattan. And we have two witch families. One is a family of all daughters and one is a family of all sons. And because it is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, we have, people falling in love here, but they're rivals. These families they don't get along, but we have people falling in love, but it's forbidden. It's so forbidden. All Our Hidden Gifts by Caroline O'Donoghue. So this is about a group of girls who go to an all-girls Catholic school, and they're just having some fun, messing around with some tarot cards until it is not all fun and games anymore and someone goes missing. Sounds very intriguing. I think it says that it's a queer story, so I'm guessing there's going to be a sapphic storyline in here. Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. I read this last year and this is one of my favorite books ever. And it's one of my favorite movies out there, ever. So if you have seen the movie and not read the book, I would highly recommend reading the book. They are different. They have slightly different storylines, but they're still they're very good in their own respect. And this is now a series, so I want to get around to reading the first prequel. There's two prequels and a sequel. The first sequel here is Magic Lessons, and this, I think, follows the very first in their family line. If you don't know the storyline of Practical Magic, it's about Sally and Jillian, who are sisters, and they're witches, and they were raised by their aunts who are also witches, and Sally has daughters who will also become witches. And it's about their magic, but it's also about their family dynamics, and there's romance in there too. It's very good. It's super deep. The character studies in these books is phenomenal. Very good. So highly recommend. I don't know much about this except that it follows the very first Owen witch. Maria, that's her name, Maria Owens. This book is supposed to follow her. And then the next sequel follows the aunts, and then the sequel after this one follows the daughters. So if that made any sense whatsoever. The White Hair by Jane Johnson. I have heard nothing about this book, but it is so gorgeous that I had to pick it up. And what I know about this is that it follows a mother and daughter, and they move out to this house kind of in the country, I think, in 1954. The only other thing I know is that there's a magical rabbit, plush rabbit, magical stuffed rabbit, and just a lot of mysteries, and the mother and daughter have to adjust and figure it out together. That's all I know, but it sounds really good, and the cover is gorgeous, so yeah, really excited for that. Okay, the last category here is it's kind of a mix. It's fantasy, mystery, horror, spooky, general spooky. We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. This is about a family who I think they're isolated, and it's kind of alluded to that they might have done some not so savory things. And that's kind of all I know. People say this is fantastic. I know one person in our book club has already read it and rated it 4 stars. So, okay, and then we have a classic. I reread this every fall because you have to, and that is Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. Last year I read the whole series. I probably will just reread the first one, but I also want to read this year Life and Death, which is Twilight reimagined, and it is gender switched. So in this one, Bella is the vampire and Edward is the human. So you have, I hate their names, but it's Beaufort and Edith. Beaufort Swan and Edith Cullen. So they gender swap them. So I'm anticipating this to be god-awful. I feel like it is my duty to read it. Coraline by Neil Gaiman. Do I need to say much about this? If you have not heard of this, if you have not read the book or watched the movie, what are you doing? Simply put, if you don't know, this girl moves with her parents to this new house in a new state. Her parents don't really have a lot of time for her. They're busy kind of unpacking and working from home. And so she ends up exploring the house, and she ends up in this other side of the house where she has an other mother and an other father, and they are like these ideal parents, and they love her, and they spoil her and like pay attention to her, whatever. The only downside is that they have buttons for eyes, and they also would like to sew buttons in Coraline's eyes and have her stay there forever. So yeah, the book is a lot more scary than the movie, FYI. I reread this last year, and I mean, it gave me the heebie-jeebies just a little bit. The Miniaturist. This is about a girl, Nella, who she gets married to a merchant trader. She goes to live with him, and his like marriage gift to her is this like replica of the house they live in, and it's just so creepy to me, so weird. It's like an exact replica. But she ends up employing this miniaturist to make miniature furniture and furnishings for this little tiny house. And she begins uncovering secrets about the house, about her husband, as she does so. All right, so that is everything. That is all of my fall recommendations, fall TBR. I've already started reading some of these books and I'm so excited to keep going. I'm hoping to make a ton of fall content for you guys, so let me know if there's anything in particular you want to see, any of these books you really want me to read, have read, and think I should bump to the top of my TBR, just let me know. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.